It looks like Methuselah.
Broken into after she said this by some deranged guy wielding a hammer. This is an essential part of their rhetoric for months. And again, Pew Research, 82% of black voters say violent crime is extremely important to them as an issue. And only 33% of white Democrats say that. But this is a party that cares about people of color. This is a party of compassion. This is a party of diversity, inclusion, equity, not giving a rip about something that blacks and blacks overwhelmingly have voted for the Democratic Party care about. Here's more of these Democrats talking about defund the police. Again, this is not some fringe position. Even Joe Biden said, we could probably redirect this and redirect that and do this. Here's some more.
In some necessary cases, completely dismantling those police forces.
Police departments are taking a sizable amount of the budget of a lot of municipalities and other entities. We need to look at those budgets, pull some of the money back, and invest it in other things.
We are committed to shifting resources.
Our calls to defund the police have been met with resistance.
To stop investing so much money in this militarized police force and instead invest in the things our community really needs.
Yes, I support a radical reimagining of community safety and public safety.
I do believe that we need to reallocate resources away.
And will this involve cuts? Yes, of course, to every department, including the police department.
And so when we dismantle it, we get rid of that cancer.
When we said defund the police, the world woke up.
I really love that Black Lives Matters and other protesters have put this front and center to defund.
Defunding police means defunding police. If these reports are accurate, then these proposed cuts to the NYPD budget are a disingenuous illusion. This is not a victory. The freshman Democrat adding the fight to defund policing will continue.
We are going to reimagine policing in New York City.
I think the idea of having a police-free future is very aspirational, and I am willing to stand with community members who are asking us to think of that as the goal.
Should be defunding or dismantling their police departments, such as in Minneapolis and New York.
My answer is yes to that. We need to be looking at it clear.
Which means reallocating and not further investing in a carceral state.
Did Minneapolis politicians say a police-free future? She sure did.
Housing system, our psychiatric problems that we have, across the nation. The police have been left to deal with the fallout from municipalities, from governments failing to address those situations. So we've become the nation's punching bag, which has created this callous atmosphere towards law enforcement. There's no way you go through, be it a nurse in an ER, be it a fireman, be it EMS, be it the police. There's no way you go through 20 years doing a career seeing the worst in society and come out the other end normal. So, the mental well-being of officers, the mental stress that it takes and the toll it takes on them and their family is just tremendous. And it's something we really need to address, just like we address PTSD with our military. There is very similar, fallout in our nation's law enforcement.
With similarly high suicide rates, right?
Correct, unfortunately.
Crime was really bad in New York City in the 80s. Something turned around, public pressure, I'm not sure what it was, to make, the 90s happen, where there was a real cleanup in the crime in the city. And this kinds of patterns happen in other cities too. What was it then that may or may not exist now that created that impetus to actually improve things?
The support structure. We had a support structure from the communities who wanted us back in their communities. We're starting to hear that now from the communities. Please give us our police back. We want to see police on the subways. But you had local government, like a police commissioner and a mayor back then, that 100% supported us. And you had a state and city legislature that supported the actions we were doing. This nation's law enforcement, commonly walk towards gunfire for the communities they serve. They'll walk through fire if they know they're supported and appreciated. And without that, it's just a job. It's just something you show up too for your hours, and you hopefully go home to your family. So we need to get that support structure, not only from the communities that need us there and want us there, but from the local governments, from the police leadership, and from our elected officials that, you know, you are given the benefit of the doubt. You are innocent until proven guilty. And when somebody's found to do wrong, we hold them accountable.
Set aside the economy, worries about crime, which are at the top of all of voter polls about what they're worried about, and instead vote for you or the world is ending?
Nobody's saying the world is ended.
You did say there, though, it could be the end of the world.
No, democracy will be ended. The world will continue to exist. The world was here before Hitler. The world was here after Hitler. That's what we're saying. No, the world will not end. The kind of world we have, the kind of country we have, we've got to decide how do we want to exist in this world. And
we pressed Senator Ted Cruz, who was here on the show recently. I'm sorry I didn't bring a prop. Yeah. You don't have your prop? You don't have your prop in your Well, when we pressed him on the MAGA Republicans' election denial, he did whip out some sort of prop, and he argued that your mother did the same thing after the 2016 election. What's your reaction?
That's funny, Sonny, because I'm pretty sure that I remembered that next day I was standing behind her when she conceded.
Yes.
And that she said while she had campaigned very hard against President Trump, she hoped that he would be a president for all Americans.
Yeah.
That, of course, is not what ultimately happened. And so, you know, I think that Senator Cruz just might have a slightly different memory of that.
Senator Cruz might have a slightly different memory from all of that. Really? Now, Hillary Clinton never used the C word. She never said, I concede. But Donald Trump is being accused of never having conceded. Let's go back to some of the things Hillary said following the election that Chelsea Clinton says her mother promptly conceded.
As I've been telling candidates who have come to see me, you can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows.
So she conceded, but then spent the next 4 years and plus calling the election stolen and the election illegitimate. That's some kind of concession. And remember the advice she gave Joe Biden when Biden was running in 2020 against you-know-who?
So we've got to have a massive legal operation. I know the Biden campaign is working on that. We have to have poll workers, and I urge people who are able to be a poll worker. We have to have our own teams of people to counter the force of intimidation that the Republicans and Trump are going to put outside polling places. This is a big organizational challenge, but at least
never
we
happened.
know more about what they're going to do. And you know, Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances, because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an in.
To co-opt religions, and that is what's going on here. And people want to deny it, that's fine. But the facts are very clear. I've studied history all of my life.
Okay.
I taught history. And I'm telling you, what I see here are parallels to what the history was in this world back in the 1930s,
so, Congressman,
in Germany, in Italy.
Okay. Are voters, though, out there listening to this message to infer from what you're saying that if they don't vote for Democrats in this election, that they are somehow supporting something akin to the rise of Hitler?
No, if they don't vote against election deniers, if they don't vote against liars, people who lie, know full well they're lying, we all know they're lying. This was the cleanest election in the history of the country. Donald Trump's own appointee said it was the cleanest in the history of the country. So if they're lying, they're denying, they're trying to delete, they're trying to nullify votes, vote against that foolishness.
Okay, so Congressman, to look back on some of those conversations about election deniers, we've talked about on this show that Democrats have spent more than $40 million making sure that some of those people got through primary
GOP primaries so that they could then face off in the general election. Do Democrats bear some responsibility for putting those people now on the ballot?
No, we didn't put them up.
But you spent millions to get them there.
I'm sorry?
But you spent millions to get many of them there, where they are now on the general election ballot.
Well, I have read about that. I believe that you should always try to best position yourself to win in the general election. I'm not a proponent of that process.
Still outpaces income when you adjust 0.3% from August to September. But surprisingly, the index remained unchanged for the year. Now, joining us, another topic, is award-winning investigative journalist, TV broadcaster, and radio host Steve Gruber. And Steve, it's really great to see you here.
Good to have you guys. Thank you for having me here on the program. Thank you.
Pleasure. Now, midterms are less than a week away. What do we expect to see? What's your take on the way things are going to go with the midterms?
Well, I've been looking back at the polling, how it's been historically wrong for the last several cycles, undercounting Republicans. And this time I think it's going to be a lot worse. Talking to my friends over at Trafalgar Group, Robert Cahaley says they've gone from being shy in 2016 to being fairly silent in 2020 to being just completely submerged this time around. And you look at what's happening in the polling. Right now, the Republicans are getting the edge, but I think it's going to be bigger than what we're seeing. I've been saying for some time, I think the Republicans pick up 35 or more seats in the House, 2 to 5 seats in the Senate. And you look what's happening. Obviously, the debate with Fetterman and Oz did not treat Fetterman well, not just because of the challenges he's facing medically, but because of the ideas he puts forth of opening up prisons and these crazy ideas that we don't keep criminals accountable for the crimes they commit. You look at Nevada. They're ready to make a change to a name in Nevada they're familiar with, Laxalt. In Arizona, another change coming. And so you look around the country, not to mention Georgia, where you see another change coming. These are all critical seats, and I think it's all trending toward Republicans. It goes back to a reset, basically, to about June 1st. Where the Republicans had a substantial lead. Then there was kind of the doldrums of summer, and Joe Biden had a couple of legislative victories. They did some victory laps. They thought that, this whole Roe v. Wade is going to drive voters for the Democrats. And you talked about women there a moment ago, Josh, but here's the fact. Yes, do I think women are going to be a key factor? Yes, I think so. But women are more concerned about putting food on the table, gas in the car, making sure they can get their kids, through Halloween now and now to Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas. These are all important things to mom. And then you look at the Latino voters. I honestly believe Latino voters are the biggest swing factor in this election. Latino voters are leaving the Democrat Party in numbers we've never seen before. 19% of the voting population is Latino, and Latino women. You look at some of those candidates in South Texas, like Mayra Flores and some of the others. These are the key, I believe, to the midterm elections.
And Steve, so if Republicans do win back control of the House and or Senate, what should be top of their agenda to really deliver some actual changes?
Well, I've got to be honest. I've been paying a lot of attention to this story from The Intercept about the backdoor portals into Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of this. If the government, under the guise of whatever it might have been, had direct access to control the narrative, to censor Americans like you and me and everybody else. And by proxy, we're using these high-tech companies and these multinationals, including companies like Verizon, to do their bidding, to tamp down conversations that you and I would have, to get rid of the Hunter Biden laptop while elevating stories that they want to control the narrative. We have a word for that in America. It's called censorship. Another word might be propaganda. I think that I would like to see a deep dive into all of this, because if the government had backdoor portals and sweetheart deals with all of these companies like Facebook, we know what Mark Zuckerberg did, spending millions of dollars in specific precincts in the 2020 election. It had great impact. We know what the social media companies did by rejecting the Hunter Biden story. It had great impact. We know that 6% of the Biden voters, if they had known the story, they wouldn't have voted for him. So